And with me today I have Sandra and Tobias, and why don't you introduce yourselves?
Okay, I start. My name is Sandra Lamborn. I work as a project manager at Djurens Rätt. And my job mainly consists of traveling around the country, Sweden, and give lecture and workshops in sustainable activism and strategies and how you can be a more effective and strategic activist. Do you want me to say anything else about me? Is that good?
That sounds good, right? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Tobias, and I founded a vegetarian vegan organization in Belgium, EVA, Ethical Vegetarian Alternative, in 2000, and I was director for that for 15 years. And since this year, I'm just working on myself, and I'm doing what Sandra is doing, more or less. I'm speaking all over Europe. Well, I'm in Europe, not in Sweden. Speaking about effective activism, effective strategies, helping people to be better activists. I'm also blogging at veganstrategist.org, and I'm also writing a book on effective strategy and communication in the animal rights vegan domain.
Thank you. So, Sandra and Tobias, do you believe that we have a vegan trend in the world right now?
Well, I hope it's not just a trend. I hope it's not just a fad that is going to pass. But I mean, we can see that more and more people are interested in veganism and animal rights, and I think that has much to do also that people see the connection between environmentalism and the meat's impact on climate change, and also the health issue, of course, that people get more and more engaged in their health and how they can have better health, and also are engaged in environmental questions, so they can see the connections between those three questions, and hence the green wave, or what we may call it, have been larger.
I see a lot of products and vegan consumption coming up, but I wouldn't confuse this with the number of vegans dramatically increasing. So I don't think that's happening quite yet. I think that will happen. What we see is that a lot of people are using vegan products because they're healthier, they're more sustainable, they're trendy, they're just variation, there's something different. And I think that's very important to realize, and also very important to play into, that people want to try these things, and that we don't have to right away veganize all these people, that we have to make sure that we increase the number of vegan meals and vegan products in this phase, and not necessarily the number of vegans, because that's probably still quite difficult to do.
So, if that is the case, that we see an increasing number of meat producers too, what does this say about our time? Are we more prone to changing our habits now rather than before? Is that a development that has any interesting reasons behind it, you think?
On the one hand, I mean the whole environmental thing and the relationship between climate and meat is something that's relatively new. It's maybe 7 years old, or I don't know what. So that gave a very big impetus, I think, to the whole movement. There's the fact of that health is becoming more and more of a problem in society, and that I think we will be required as a society, or as societies, to work on prevention, because we will not be able to compensate or to pay for all the treatment, and for all the people having cancer and heart disease and diabetes. It will just be impossible. It will not be affordable. So we will have to work on prevention. And then, of course, I guess thanks to mainly animal rights organizations who are putting these abuses out in the open through the coverage of their undercover investigations, people are getting more aware of the animal rights issue. So I think there's definitely a couple of factors that make us much more that make it all much more visible and much more relevant at this moment.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that we are more capable of adapting, or more capable of changing now comparing to like 20 years ago. I think that humans are creatures of habit. But I totally agree with you when you say that there are several issues that we need to handle, and they interact with each other, and it makes it easier to act on them when it's about health and it's about the survival of our planets. And it's also that I mean the animal rights movements have been working with this for several years. So I mean, this is like a threshold effect, you can say, that suddenly we see changes that have been going on for such a long time. Suddenly they become visible.
Yes, and how much do you think that we should just embrace people reducing their meat consumption or going vegan for health and environmentalist reasons? How much do you think that we should try and give them the reason with animal ethics too, and argue in that perspective?
Should I? Yeah. On one hand, I think that every person who reduces their meat consumption or becomes vegan or vegetarian or whatever they do to reduce their meat consumption, I think it's a positive thing, regardless of the reason. But on the other hand, I think that we risk to like outwater the reason why we struggle to make people stop eating meat, and that is for the animals. So I am a bit ambivalent on that, because I can see cons and pros with both sides.
Yeah, I'm less ambivalent. I talked about this for half an hour today. This is like what I talk about. I think that the degree to which people diminish is not important. Everything is good, and the reason is also not important. Everything is good. And I can talk about it for a long time, but basically I think that it's thanks to the meat producers that we are having a lot less difficulty in going vegan today, because the meat producers that drive the demand. It's because of them that it's interesting for companies to produce for them, to make substitutes for them, meat alternatives. So they are very instrumental in creating change. And we have to remember that they make it easier for everybody to go vegan. So I think it's even important to focus on them and to make as many meat producers as possible, because it is the fastest way to change demand and to tip the system. And whatever motivation they have, be it health or environment and whatever is not animal ethics, I think these other arguments are doors, are gates through which they can enter, and they will learn about it. They will start to eat the food. And after seeing that the food is great and that they can do it and that it's affordable and feasible and whatever, they can move on, and their defensiveness against our story, our animal rights arguments will drop, because at that point they know they don't have anything to lose anymore. Yeah, so that's the brief case for that.
It's natural for us as an animal rights movement to talk about what we think is wrong with the world today, and focus on how the animals are treated and why we think it's wrong. How important do you think it is to talk about the world that we want to see? Like the name of this fair, Vegovision, to talk about the world that will be vegan in our utopia, so to say. How important is it to paint up the picture of the vegan vision?
So the question is do we talk about that we want a vegan world, kind of like that?
Yeah. How important is it
to communicate it?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still often careful with that idea, but because I think the further we go, and every year it gets easier and less scary to talk about that. And when I talk about a vegan world, what I say is this is not something that we as vegan or animal rights organizations are causing or orchestrating. this is going to happen anyway, and we are there to ease people into it and to like help them with this, or help society with this transition. So it's not like, I mean, this puts them at ease in the sense that we're not forcing them, we just want to like help them move there, maybe faster or easier or gentler.
I think it's really good to have a vision. I think I think we have to have a vision, because sometimes the contemporary world, as we see it, as animal rights people or people caring for animals, can be pretty black. We can see pretty black, and I think we have to have like a vision. Where will we go? What do we hope for? But I concur with you. I don't think it's helpful in all situations to talk about everyone going vegan, even though me in my heart, of course, that is my wish. I think it's depending on the context, and the context really much decides how I will communicate my vision to other people. I mean, not everybody is open for the vegan idea yet, but I think they will more and more. I mean, I've been vegan for not even 10 years, and I remember when I became vegan, and how I always got the question: Are you a militant vegan? Are you burning meat trucks and letting minks out of their cages? I never ever get this question anymore today, and that symbolizes a lot of how far we have gotten just normalizing the vegan concept.
Yeah, and even though we live in a very interesting and positive time with the vegan trend and the meat reducing trend, do you see any difficulties arising in the near or far away future that may stop us from reaching our goal, or make it harder to reach our goal, or that will make it take longer time? Any dangers or difficulties that we have to be aware of?
I think that all political movements sometimes experience setbacks, and I think we have to be aware of that. We're going to. I mean, we have like a trend right now. We have wind on our backs. I don't know if you can say that in English right now, and that's good. But I think we have to be aware of setbacks coming. One thing that I can see, if we grow bigger as a movement, if the meat reducing or vegan or non-meat movement becomes stronger, I think we can expect a more aggressive counter strike from the animal industry lobbying, and I think we have to be aware of that, and that could very well lead to a setback or a challenge. But I mean, that only means that we have been successful, so in a way that's good.
Yeah, maybe to answer that last part, I think one of the ways to like deal with or to prevent the industry to like oppose us too much is that when they get into these products themselves, so when they start producing meat substitutes, when they like bet on two horses, so to speak, then they will have way less reason to be against or lobbying, etc. So for instance, and you may find it problematic or not, but I heard about the soy company that was bought by a dairy company, and the director and CEO of the dairy company, of the mother company, said like, I really don't care, I'm happy with every liter of soy milk I sell instead of a liter of cow's milk, because one, it is more sustainable, and two, it is more profitable for us. So you can imagine how that takes away their opposition. So I think when it happens, and for instance in Germany I was told there's like almost 60 meat producing companies now who are into making vegetarian substitutes. We shouldn't be against it, I think. I mean, it's of course it's capitalism, and it's not like the ideal situation, and we should support also the small businesses, etc. But I think when that happens, it's really good, and it will prevent them from lobbying against us too much. And another problem I see, I mean, this is a problem, through the opposition can be a problem, But another problem, of course, is what's happening in third world countries, in upcoming countries like China, India, where the evolution is the opposite as what is happening here. So that is a big thing. We should move to these other countries and be active there. And this is happening. I mean, the bigger organizations in the world are doing that. And then thirdly, the other opposing factor is ourselves. I think we are very often, very counterproductive in our communication. In our thinking, we are too dogmatic. We are not pragmatic enough. Somebody has said, Matt Ball from Vegan Outreach, he said, the only thing that's going to stop the vegan world is the vegans. And there's some truth in that. We have to make sure that we are thinking about what is really important and distinguishing the details from the really important stuff.
So, do you have any advice on how we could make Sweden the leading country when it comes to veganism? How we can, because I think that Sweden has come a lot further than many other countries, but still we are not the best, really. So how can we, what other countries can we take inspiration from, maybe, or what can we do to speed up the process?
That's a hard question. I think we should keep on communicating and keep on communicating in a really inclusive way, as you were touching also. We shouldn't be too dogmatic, and we shouldn't be too narrow-minded. We should try to see that everybody is a potential meat producer or progressive person. But I also think that we need more legislative solutions. We need to get more politicians on our side. We need to show the Swedish politicians that we have their back, we are on their side, and we want them to make these changes. It is hard because and it's hard because lots of, as in almost every EU country, the legislation in Sweden are in many ways steered by or decided on EU level. So it's hard to make that kind of changes in a EU country right now. Do you want to go on?
Yeah, I have only spent about 5 hours in Sweden, so I cannot say very much about what could help you in terms of like the typical assets of this country. But in terms of other countries, I think the US is an interesting country. It's a bit. I think I go to the US every year to eat, and I think what's happening there is that in terms of consumer products, it's ahead of any other country. But in terms of legislation, it is behind. So I think this has to do with like Americans wanting. I mean, they want everything to be available, every option. They want to have 50 tastes of everything. And also, if you're in the US, I mean, if you're only just 1% of the population in the US, you already like have a population of 3 million people. So even a niche market there is significant to cater for. That's not the same in smaller European countries, of course. But on the other hand, like I said, the legislation for in factory farms, etc., is really deplorable. And another country in Europe that is interesting where things are happening is apparently Germany. That you can look at. But I mean, we in the rest of Europe, we have the idea that Scandinavian countries are ahead of everybody else in terms of legislation. I don't know if that's true. I saw a book about Scandinavian myth in the airport bookstore. So I don't know what's true and what's not. But just to say, like, we have this idea of northern countries as being very progressive in terms of politics.
How's it going there?
I think I'm on my way.
So both of you educate other activists about the conversations that we have with people about animal rights and veganism. What do you think should be, briefly, just the general main strategy that we have in those type of conversations in our everyday lives? Not only when we are handing out leaflets and so on. When we talk to meat eaters in general, what should be the general main strategy?
I can talk about that for hours, but maybe just a few points. One of the main things I would say is like to imagine how it is to be them. And that you have to do that whenever you want to convince somebody of something, you have to be imagining how it is to be in their shoes and how it is for them to hear your message, how it is for them to see you. And we forget that all the time. Most of the time we just want to rattle off our story and our arguments, the arguments that we feel passionate about, the animals are dying, etc., etc. But the most important thing is like to see what works for them, what is interesting for them, be more focused on the people you talk to instead of focused on your own story. I think that's the most important thing of many important things.
Okay, can you hear me now? Yeah. Yeah, I do the same thing. I try to adapt to the context. When I speak to someone, I try to think: is this person more interested in, or have more to gain from a health perspective or from an environmental perspective, and where is this person right now in their life? So I try to communicate in a positive way and to validate the person and not to try to force anything upon them, because that's just counterproductive, I think. I think I believe in smaller steps rather than to ask someone to be vegan. I think it's more productive to just maybe say that it's a possibility also to be a part-time vegetarian, just to test it out. I think that's more effective.
Yeah, we do have some time for questions from the audience too. So if any one of you have any thoughts or comments or questions that you would like to pass on to us up here, you're very welcome. And if you want us to help translate from Swedish to English, we can help you with that. No? Any comments on what we have talked about up here?
Well, I would like to know what both of you feel are the biggest achievements that you have made. Convincing people, or like on an individual perspective, or in a broader perspective?
I think, for me, I think it's hard to answer, because I think when I speak to someone, I don't really see the result immediately. I see it more like you plant a seed in someone, and then they go home and they talk to other people, and then the changes come successively, if you can say that. So I want to believe that I have made lots of changes to a lot of people, because I've spoken about this to so many people. But I don't think that change is something that I can really see. But that is what I hope I have achieved most, to talk to single people at the street.
Yeah, I agree. It's like I see people as a bucket that there's drops falling into it, and at a certain point it will be completely full, and then the person goes vegan or changes. And we are each responsible for or we can each add some drops to that bucket, and we don't know how full the bucket is at some point. So we do something, we talk to them, we cook for them, and it changes something. It adds some drops to the bucket, and at some point hopefully they change. But it's hard to estimate what our share in that was. So I don't keep a list of I veganized 70 persons or 80. I mean, if you ask for my biggest achievement, it was founding an organization that did this structurally. You know, we are with 10 people working on that, so and working with schools and with restaurants and with all kinds of politicians, and so it's very hard to like know how what success you had, because I mean, ideally we would know how many people we as an organization we changed in terms of their eating habits, but there's so many other influences playing into that, like there's the food prices, and there's like food scandals and health issues, and so it's even as an organization it's very difficult to assess like how much impact you had in terms of like changing people's diet. It's really difficult.
Okay, you guys raised your hand at the exact same time, so I don't know which one. Yeah, okay.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just wondering, what kind of role do you think veganism will have in the coming 10 years or so? In the whole world?
Like what kind of like place it would take in the world?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 10 years may be a little bit early, but I mean, if that's your question, I have to answer it. Of course, 10 years. In 10 years, I think we will have we have still a lot could happen in 10 years, and I think something is happening right now that's never happened before, and that is the putting of a lot of money in the vegan movement, because it's beginning to be profitable, and so people are investing money in meat substitutes, in egg substitutes, in dairy substitutes, in artificial meat, etc. If one of these things really takes off within these 10 years, then that could be really incredibly significant, and I think that would be one of the most significant things. Other significant things would be like, they're called black swans, like freak occurrences that we don't have under control, would be like diseases, big outbreaks of animal diseases, and those could like give an enormous push to the movement also. If everything goes according to normal, I think we will just progress till we reach a tipping point, but that may not be for those 10 years yet, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see a utopia within 10 years, sadly, but I see an ongoing progress, as it have been for the last 10 and 20 years. So I think that we can count on more vegans, more vegan products, more normalization of non-animal products and lifestyles.
What do you think people who aren't activists or don't have power in the activist community but have power in maybe other places, work for companies, or they're vegan lawyers or vegan business people now, what do you think they can do in their spaces that they have power to influence this change and make it normal?
You mean people that are not activists but are vegan and can be like...
Yeah, they want to grow veganism, they believe in veganism, but they're not congruent out there. Maybe they're a manager at ICA or they work for Nestle or something like that.
But they're still vegans.
Yeah.
I mean, I think those people are so important. I mean, activism, I would say that they are activists if they are fighting for this purpose in any way. And I think we need people in different parts of society, because different kinds of people listen to different kinds of people. It's only natural. So I think that if we could achieve that high-positioned people in different parts of society became vegan and became representants of veganism or animal rights or stuff like that, I think that would be a great thing.
Yeah, I agree, and I also would call them activists, and I would say it's not even that important if they're vegan or not. I mean, the important thing is what they do, and I think we focus, as an aside, we focus too much on this being vegan. You know, what I say is like what we put into our mouth is way less important than what comes out of it. What comes out of it is like our ambassadorship and our actions and everything that we can do to change things. And what we consume is just a very small bit compared to the potential impact that we can have in positions like those. So often I see like people about celebrities, for instance, they're like saying like, oh, but they're not vegan, or like and then everything that they do is not good because they're not vegan, you know, and that's an attitude we really should get rid of. I think it's like a vegan can do nothing wrong, a non-vegan can do nothing right, and that's completely wrong, I think. So everybody in a position to change things can potentially do much more than a vegan in his basement who's just behind his computer and doing nothing, you know. So we have to appreciate everybody wherever they are and what they can potentially do, I think.
I have one more question. Me and my friend are now starting a school organization about veganism, and we would like to have some tips on how to handle it, how to spread veganism in school, what to do.
I think the best thing I can tell you is rather than like giving you some random tips, is like read a couple of books that are really interesting in that respect. Like, for instance, a book by Bruce Friedrich. I mean, if you could go to my blog veganstrategist.org, there's a section books, and there are interesting strategy books on like being an activist and telling you the things you could do. There's several books on that with really the best tips for people in your position, like what you can do and what is effective.
Yeah, it's hard to give those tips in such a limited amount of time. I can tip you about Djurens Rätt have just, or this autumn we released, I don't know if you're aware of it, a handbook for practical activism, and it's really accessible, and it's on our web page to order, and I think it would really be suitable for you in your position.
Okay, thank you.
You were talking a lot about finding replacement, like for example egg replacement, and that would be a radical change. But do you not believe that there would be more interesting change if we generally could replace egg as in not having to use egg, as it's not really necessary in any way, or not having to use milk? Lots of cultures that also kind of deal very well without milk.
Well, there's a difference between making pancakes where you don't need them and making an omelette where you kind of need something to put in there, right? So some people, I mean, I agree, like sometimes we can make clear to people that you don't need an egg for this, or you don't need milk for this. But in other things, in other food products or recipes, you do need something if you still want that particular taste and that particular texture, etc. So I guess in mayonnaise, for instance, you don't need much of a replacement. But like Hampton Creek Foods in the US is trying to come up with vegan omelets, and yeah, of course you could say like, well, omelets are not necessary for you, you know, but I mean, people want to eat them, so let's try to like invent something so that they can eat them rather than tell them they should eat them.
I think the transition from being meat eater to being non or reduced meat eater is so much more easy if you can give them a replacement that looks the same, but isn't meat.
Yeah, it's the same with meat substitutes. You can say like you don't need these things, you can eat beans and rice, etc. But I think it will indeed be a lot more easy if you, I mean, nobody wants to eat, and very few people want to eat a dead animal. They don't insist that what they have on their plate is a dead animal. They insist on a certain texture and a certain taste and a certain way of preparing things. And if you can give them that without the animal, then I think most will eat that if you market it well.
And I have another question for Sandra. Lots of people seem to suggest that insects could be a part of the future in terms of very high nutrition and low environmental consequences. How do you see that ethically? I feel like as a vegan, probably eating insects would also not be okay.
No, I agree. I wouldn't see how insects are better than shrimps or something else in that. I mean, how many insects would you need to feed yourself, like for dinner? And I don't actually know about the environmental impact or other things around this this consumption. No, I don't know. Just my first thought when I think about this is I don't think it's something. I don't think it's good.
But I mean, I think an important question is, I mean, there is a difference between sentient and non-sentient animals. I mean, suppose that insects are not sentient, they don't experience pain, suffering, whatever, they don't have any concept of life. If we say, then still you cannot eat them, then we have a problem about plants, because then they would be kind of similar to plants, and if we say we can't eat them, then we cannot also eat plants. So we have to think rationally about what it is that makes us not want to eat or harm something. And if something cannot be harmed, then you might have an argument to say that, okay, we can eat that, we can't harm it, it's an it, it's not an he or she or what, but we don't know that. So there is a chance that if we just move towards insect production and then we, as it happened before, we just find out that they suffer, which is very possible, we don't know at this point, then we have wronged a lot of creatures. So I'm hoping we can do it without insects, definitely, and I think we can. And I just whenever I see like people into insects, I think it's just it's popular in a way because it's so nasty, and the media likes it because like it's so horrible and everybody says so that's why it's kind of like a lot in the media, but it's not sure at all if this will ever become a big thing.
Yes, one final question from the audience.
I'm just wondering if anyone of you have tried or you are currently on the raw vegan diet.
Can you repeat that?
Have you ever tried or have friends or are currently in the raw vegan diet, like eating raw, totally raw?
For a longer period of time, or
Yeah.
no, I haven't.
I've done an experiment for 3 months, and I experienced that I was feeling a lot better, and then I stopped anyway. So it gives me a lot of like comprehension for people who like cannot bring up the courage or the discipline to do something even though they know it's better. It was a good experience for me. I always think like I should go back to eating more raw, but it doesn't work because I love eating cooked food so much. So it helps you understand how people are addicted to some things, to meat or to cooked food or to whatever. So it's interesting in that respect, like to see something that you cannot do yourself, it gives you more comprehension and compassion for people who are in that position with meat, for instance.
Thank you.
And thank you. I have one final question. This type of events, Vegovision, that Djurens Rätt is arranging this weekend, that is coming to an end soon. How important and how effective do you think this type of events can be in order to reach our main goal somewhere along the road, that the vegan vision? How important do you think these type of events can be?
I think they could be very important. I think it would be good though to know what your audience is. Which people, I don't know if you do a poll or something, but it's important to know like is this mainly vegetarian and vegans coming here? If this is so, then make sure that you do things for them. Like you make sure they get networked, or you help them with doing sustainable activism, or you make them active or whatever. Because if they're all that kind of people, and then you have sessions about things that are not useful for them, so you have to really know who they are. And it's, in my experience, it's not that easy to attract a lot of people who are far from our movement, who are not vegan or not vegetarian at all. Some people may bring other people, but there's few, it's hard to reach the people who are not into it at all. I think, I don't know how it is here, but we try to make it really like, that's why we make it really look mainstream, like we have it like here, like a nice place, and doesn't look like an animal rights gathering or anything at all, but still if you poll them, a lot of people will be already vegan, vegetarian. So it shows that a lot of people come there to to feel connected, etc. And that's important too. Ideally you would get the other group too, but it's not easy, I think.
I think it's a great complement to other ways of working and networking, and I think it's really necessary for people to feel that we have a connection. There are several of us. We are struggling against the same goal, and we can network and we can learn from each other. We can skill share. So that part I think is really, really important. But as Tobias said, I think it's harder to reach the people that are not into this at all. And maybe some come and they follow a friend and they get out something of it and they learn something. But I think that people in this building are pretty much into what we are saying already. But it's still really, really important, of course. But we should know what the goal or what the main goal with this Vegovision is.
Thank you. And this was a very pleasant chat. And I hope all of you feel inspired after this vegan weekend. And if you're a vegan, if you're a vegetarian, if you're a meat reducer, or if you're a meat eater considering reducing your meat consumption, please look up Djurens Rätt's website for more information, for recipes, or how you can become an activist in Djurens Rätt if you feel like you want to continue with helping animals. Thank you very much, and I wish you a pleasant evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.